At 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting of the Common Council of the City of Hudson to order for Monday, October 21st, 2013. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Mayor Burchill.
Here.
District 1 Morissette.
Here.
District 2 Yaku.
Here.
District 3 Bernard.
Here.
District 5 Hoggett.
Here.
District 6 Vanslo.
Here. At this point in our agenda, will anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda, now is your time. I see we have one person. Would you please come up and state your name and address, please? And welcome.
Hi, everybody, again.
Hi.
Gloria Kramer. I'm on 2nd Street over at Croyview Apartments. First, I want to say thank you for doing the roof. It's kind of hard to look at books when you've got to move buckets of water and all that stuff. Thank you for that. And thank you for all the other stuff you've done that I kind of reminded you of. We would like to have 2 signs for that. No smoking within 50 feet of the door. And we need one for the front door, which is Vine, and then one for the back door, which is for like the police department and us. Is that something that we have to request? Is it like a regulation sign? Or is it something we could go over to Fleet Farm and get? You know, we could do that. If you tell me what to do about that. We've also, the driveway in the back to go over to the police department is also the drop for the books at night or whenever. And you know the little island that they have with the lights. We would like 2 arrows, not big ones, but just so that people see they have to go around the island instead of cutting across and going against the flow of traffic. Because we have had a couple of kind of close ones. Library people don't seem to be able to understand to go around. Police department does, because that's where they park their cars. You know, the squads or their cars, whichever. So if you could think about that for us, that would be wonderful. And if you give me a stencil and a can of paint and a brush, I'll do it myself. I don't care about that. How do I go about getting a mock fire drill for my apartment building? Because I've been there now 4 years and we've never had a, fire, imitation fire. They may have had issues, but we have a lot of people there that could use a little extra help, knowing what to do and where to go. And if you tell me who to call, I will do it. I'll help whatever is needed. The same thing for the library. And I'm sure there must be a format for that, but I don't know what it is. Because keep in mind, we're on the 2nd level. And our children section is nonstop activity with all ages. And if you're, what do you do with all these little children? So if somebody knows what they're supposed to do, you work here and you are here, we need some guidance on that. And I would, you want to give it to me, fine. If you don't, whoever else you work with over there is wonderful. And this is, that's all done. But I would encourage you to please do that parking ramp. I volunteer over in Hopkins, and they have a ramp in downtown Hopkins, and all of the businesses were behind it 110%. They have their own little spots reserved, but it's a free ramp, and it is always busy. And I can't tell you enough how helpful it is. I was afraid to go on a ramp when I first moved here, because they had all those thugs in downtown Minneapolis. And I said, I'm not going in a ramp. But this one is wonderful. And I would encourage you, please, please, please give it a lot of good, positive thought. Thank you again very much for all that you do. I appreciate it. I hope everybody else does. Happy Halloween.
Same to you, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council? Okay, if not, we'll go to consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
To approve the regular meeting minutes of October 7th, 2013. To approve claims for payment in the amount of $1,177,117.52. A detailed description is available in the clerk's office on request and is posted on the city's website. To approve the revised agreement with Walker Parking Consultants and Foth Infrastructure and Environment LLC in the total amount of $8,500, $7,500 for the Walker Parking Consultants and up to $1,000 for Foth Engineering for a downtown parking ramp study of the North Lot and Williams Lot sites. To approve the issuance of 6 temporary Class B beer licenses to Crusader Hockey Incorporated, doing business as Hudson Crusaders, for events to be held at the John Gornick Memorial Arena at 1820 Hanley Road. Additional license information is available in the clerk's office on request. To approve the following annual fees: $100 for a pedal tour quadricycle license, $25 for each additional quadricycle, $10 for a pedal tour quadricycle driver's license. To place on file the Public Utility Commission minutes of October 8th, 2013, the St. Croix EMS Commission minutes of October 3rd and October 16th, 2013, and the quarterly investment report and monthly financial report of the finance officer as of September 30th, 2013. That is all.
Move for approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yakub?
Yes.
Vanslo?
Yes.
Haggett?
Yes.
Bernard?
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the final development plans for Boostrom Office Building at 2201 Jackboro Drive in Hudson. It's a 5,140 square foot office building north of Tower Road and west of Highway 35, Ray Evans Properties, Doug Boostrom. Mr. Darnold.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The Plan Commission recommends approval of the final development plans for the 5,140 square foot Boostrom Office Building Phase 1 at 2201 Jackboro Drive in the St. Croix Business Park East with the following conditions. Provide a surety, letter of credit, or other form approved by the city attorney of $6,000 at the time the building permit is issued to address proposed improvements in the right-of-way, including the restoration of street and boulevard areas, driveway and curb and gutter construction, and utility installations. Also, execution of a stormwater management agreement, which addresses responsibility for monitoring, inspection, and maintenance of the on-site storm sewer system, including the storm sewer pipes, structures, infiltration basins, and grass swales. Mr. Matt Frisbee, who's representing Doug Boostrom, is here tonight. He has presentation boards, or be more than willing to discuss any aspects of the proposal with you tonight. Again, Planning Commission recommends approval with the conditions.
Anybody have any questions for Matt? Or questions about the project?
I'll move for approval with conditions.
Second.
Okay. I think it's a nice addition. It looks good.
Yeah, it does.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Danny, you might as well stay right there. Next item on the agenda is certified survey map 483 Stage Line Road, 2.92 acres, and dedication of Stage Line Road right-of-way. Richard Stout.
Plan Commission recommends approval of the certified survey map for the property at 483 Stage Line Road as proposed by Richard Stout. What the certified survey map accomplishes is the consolidation of 2 development parcels separated into 2 tax parcels at the current time. Also, the area owned by the Stouts, currently the area that's being dedicated to the city of Hudson for the Stage Line Road right-of-way currently is under easement. So our typical requirement is any easement areas for roads are dedicated to the city of Hudson. That would leave a 2.92 acre parcel for development. And again, the certified survey map will consolidate the two existing parcels into one, so it'll provide a better legal description for that parcel. Again, Plan Commission recommends approval.
Questions for Mr. Darnold?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is we have an engineering, Neil, if you could, what did, we had an approval in finance, and it was approve this dollar amount less hourly based on billable up to a maximum? Was that, of 42,700, and the final construction will be up to 27,700 hourly basis, not to exceed.
Correct. So the one item is an hourly basis, the other two are hourly not to exceed.
I think that was a change from the proposal that you folks saw. Yes, come on, Karen, if you have a question.
I heard him say 2 items hourly not to exceed. Clarify that. I might have missed something at the finance committee. What I have is preliminary design hourly estimated at 42,700. Final design, we changed that hourly not to exceed at 29,700. And the construction phase will be hourly estimated at 15,000.
So in the case of items 1 and 3, we would still be notified though if,
Yes, if we're gonna be
Exceed
going
that.
over that, we would definitely notify you and explain why we were going over that.
so are you saying you're not comfortable saying not to exceed?
Well, what I
Those two?
guess, you wanna go hourly not to exceed on all 3 of them?
I think
Or-
I think that's what happened. I don't want to read the minutes back, but
I thought it was just two.
Oh, it
just
was-
on.
It was two.
It was just item 2.
Okay,
But I wanted,
Why would it be on all 3, though?
Well, maybe on 1 and 2 I'd be comfortable on that, but both 1 and 3 includes field work. And anytime you go out in the field or you're doing construction inspection, you never know what happens and what can come up during the construction phase. But if we're going over my estimate of 15,000, let's say in construction phase, we're gonna tell the city that we're going over, and here's the reasons why. It might have been some issues when we were installing the pump or some other problems that can happen during construction.
so you're okay with 1 and 2? Not to exceed.
No.
I'm okay
Just
with
number 2.
just number 2 hourly not to exceed, because number 1 also includes field work. That's
Okay. Oh, I thought it was, yeah, okay.
4 months of field work going out and checking
Gotcha,
the
gotcha.
meters.
Okay. Everybody live with that?
I'll move for approval.
Okay,
Second.
second? John, did you second?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Opposed? 6B, we have consider operator's license. That was not part of consent agenda,
I'll
correct?
recuse myself, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have 2. They were on your desks today, if I can find them here. Roxanne L. Kopp and Michael J. Cunningham issue a regular operator's license for the period of 10/22/13 to 6/30/15.
Move for approval.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 6C, consider bids to purchase a truck, a 1-ton truck. We have the issue seats. Mr. Zuli is here to answer any questions that you have. One of the questions I asked him in finance is why we wouldn't take the bid for $30,800, and the bid submitted by the Hudson Ford and Ewald Ford did not meet the specs set forth in the bid documents. And if you want to explain that one more time for
Sure.
the rest of the council?
Public Works received 4 bids for the 1-ton truck. Hudson Ford was the low bid at $30,800, but it did not meet a couple of our criterias that we had in our specifications for this truck. Primarily, the rear axle, we spec'd out that we wanted a auto-locking rear end. The Ford trucks came in with a limited slip, which is not what we spec'd out. The other issue was with the front four-wheel drive locking hubs. Ford did not have that in their bid also. So we just felt that the low bid did not meet the specifications that we had for this vehicle.
Okay. Questions for Tom?
I have a question.
Yep.
Not to do with the one-ton truck, but when, did Public Works reduce any fleet at all when we were asked to reduce fleets throughout the city?
We're not, the intent was not to increase our fleet with this vehicle, so we're gonna sell it on, or put it up on public auction and try to sell this vehicle, the old vehicle that we're replacing.
Okay.
So it's going to be an even. Is that your question, Mary?
Yeah, but there was nothing reduced throughout the last year.
Not for trucks.
Vehicles?
Oh, we've got rid of a couple old vehicles, yes.
That's, I think, your question, isn't
Yeah.
it?
We did get rid of a few of the older pickups and some of our older trucks, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public Safety Committee, consider ordinance 7-113, ordinance creating a section 99-21, the municipal code of chickens, ordinance 7-13. Mary?
Yeah, we went through, over this in public safety last week. There are a few changes I'd like to make, after talking to the urban chicken, group. One of them would be the permit start date. We have July 1st and ending June 30th. They were hoping we could move it up to April 1st and ending March, just because they need to get the chickens in spring, so the coop would have to get approved first. So June or July would be too late to start, to get the chickens or the hens, I should say. That's one change I'd like us to consider. The other change is I'd like us to consider, there was nothing in the ordinance that asks for approval from neighbors. I know that we've discussed that. I'd just like to discuss it more, just from reading other ordinances and seeing that it is in other ordinances. And those are the two changes for now.
Okay.
Would like us to consider.
Yeah, I had, well, first on the, just the rationale behind the license timing was to just make it consistent with liquor, other licenses in the city.
Yeah,
But-
but
so
it
that-
doesn't work with the,
So either the first of the year or the middle of the year, the beginning of the calendar year, if that
Okay.
would work better, or than July 1st or June 1st. That would be my recommendation. It would be
April is
easy.
bad? April 1st is bad?
There isn't any other license period that begins in April, so it would be it would make it an odd situation. It could be done, but.
Well, let's spread the workload around.
so you would want to do like a January to.
January, huh?
I'd prefer January.
Well, isn't there a inspection part of the license where you're going out and checking coops? and-
Well, right, that's why
Things
they
like that.
requested April 1st, because in the
Well, that's why
beginning.
January would be kind of awkward, don't you think,
Yeah,
from an inspection standpoint? Unless you want to be out.
no, I think January would be awkward as well.
So, I mean,
Are you talking about when the licenses need to be approved? I mean, once the application comes in, we're gonna be doing inspections based on receipt of the application, so that may, that may not necessarily align with the licensing dates that's required. We'll be ahead of that.
okay.
The application will be coming in, we'll be going out and doing inspections prior to that period of time, so. I mean, the only thing about the winter is that you would have to potentially be tracking snow and those types of things, and
So
maybe,
the-
it may be a little bit harder to see.
The permits are really to actually get the chickens, just like a dog permit, I was assuming. a dog license.
Well, my understanding is that you get approval, city permits or approves, considers the permit, and then at that point it's constructed and they bring the chickens in, so.
Right.
I guess the question is, and I grew up next to a chicken coop or a large chicken operator, but I haven't been involved in that type of thing, so I don't know the ins and outs of all of it, so.
So the concern I would have with the January, it's, although I understand what you're saying, is then there's 3 months, 4 months that goes and they have a permit and no use for it. The first year, you know what I mean? The startup year. And then granted, it's a year trial basis, but
What's the big deal if there's 3 months they don't use it? They've got it, it's easier for us administratively, and then come in April-ish time or whenever is available, they can inspect it.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me either way, I'm just,
That way would at least be in line for it rather than in June would be too late. So yeah, I guess if it's gotta be January, that'd be
all right, that's fine. I'm not, the point is July is too late, so let's get it sooner. If January is how it has to be, then that's.
Thanks, Denny.
So you want to change your recommendation from April to January?
Sure. If that's easiest for staff, yeah.
Okay.
And the other issue was resident approval or neighbor approval. And really, I know other ordinances have that, but the problem you have is really the council has the authority to approve these licenses, and by requiring neighbors to approve them, you're really putting the decision-making authority into the hands of neighbors, and they may or may not have a good reason for not, they might just say, I just don't want a chicken coop next to my property. And so certainly you can listen to neighbors, but I don't think it's appropriate to require neighbor approval, because it basically puts the decision on the license in the hands of the neighbors rather than the council. So it's up to the council to evaluate. If you want to have, neighbors can come to a meeting when it's on the agenda and voice their concerns, and then the council can take them into consideration and make a decision. But to actually require neighbor approval would, I don't think, be proper.
So for each of these 15 permits, they're coming to council?
I think at least with
And then
the
if the number
first,
goes up in future years,
Just like a,
do every,
just like a
Chicken
liquor
coop.
license, yep.
Now remember,
yeah, this is a trial. It's
yeah,
the first year. I don't
think we'll see 15 licenses. 15 is higher than the average for the population that they see, per capita that they see. It'd be impressive, I guess, if we do, but I think it was a generous number that we gave out for the first year as a trial.
So your question, Lori, is,
well,
are we going to, if we go to 30 the following year, are we going to bring all of them back every
Yeah.
year?
Well, to be honest, it talks about
I think it
the
does.
city in terms of, but I think the thought was, at least initially, is that it would be reviewed, it would come to council.
It's no different than a liquor license, it'll come back in bulk,
yeah.
essentially.
Right,
If
unless
everyone's gonna
there's
permit at the
issues
same
with
time.
it. Or taxi licenses,
Yeah.
or, it's certainly more of it's a different type, more of a use of the property than a dog.
Okay,
I'd like to move for first reading with the change of January
okay.
under item C2.
I'd like to go to public hearing before we have readings.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
I'm okay with a second.
You second it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to see us go to public hearing.
Well, Mayor, they'll have the opportunity during 3 times to, 2, to speak on it.
Yeah, but this will be, if we go to public hearing, it'll be more advertised.
Well, the ordinance doesn't require a public hearing.
No, it doesn't,
So
but
it
I
would be a
think-
council decision whether to have a public hearing on this.
I sent an email out to my constituents, and I got a 50-50 reply back from many, more than I received back from any other concern we've had, more than the school issue. So I would like to hear from the general public before we finalize anything.
Okay.
So I'll be voting no on your motion.
Can we address some of the?
Sure.
What's in here?
That's,
before we
yep, we have a motion on the floor, and,
Okay.
yep, I sure think you can.
So one question I had was, okay, so it can be 10 feet back from the property line, right?
There's 25-foot setback, though. You might need to help out on some of the small details, Denny.
Okay, it says a minimum of 10 feet from the licensee's property line.
What section are you under?
Sorry, I'm on
Page
page
three.
3.
Page
top of
3.
top. A coop and any detached enclosure shall be located a minimum of 25 feet from an adjacent structure. So that's 8 yards, basically, from another home, deck, or patio. And a minimum of 10 feet from the licensee's property line. So assuming there's no structure nearby, it could be 10 feet from the property line. And then go down a little further, shall not exceed 30 square feet, so that's, approximately 5 by 6. Shall not exceed 8 feet in height, but that's on top of the 2 feet.
No, that's total.
No, from the
That's
coop's
total.
grade
Total
level.
8
From the
feet.
coop's grade level, but it says an elevated, so item
Yeah, we
C1.
we discussed that in safety, we were confused too, but it's a total of 8 feet, including the 24 inches.
'Cause
Okay.
grade means
That's
from
10
the
feet,
ground.
and I'm thinking
No.
that's a big,
That's why we maxed it.
Yeah, we didn't go to 10.
Yeah, that's why we said should not exceed 8 feet, we were hoping that clarified.
So you can have an elevated coop or a coop at grade, nothing to exceed 8 feet.
Okay.
okay. So we're not worried about these being buried in the snow, or,
No, because they have to have a floor, they have to have surface.
okay.
Can't be dirt.
I'll be honest, my biggest concern is a structure like that close to a property line, or that close to a home. Typically when people have dog runs, they're adjacent to their garage, side of their house type of thing. And I'm envisioning now something back, at the back of a lot line, close to a lot line, 3 yards from a lot line, in a large structure. And honestly, I do get concerned about what that does for adjacent property values. And, you said earlier, it's not necessary, or we shouldn't necessarily recommend that we have neighbor approval. I think, there might be some folks not real excited about something like that going up at the back of their lot.
But they have to be 25 feet from a structure, or at least 10 feet from the property line,
Right.
correct?
Right, so that means it's 10 feet from your, both, but it's potentially, just think of 2 lots back to back.
Yep.
They can be 10 feet from their property line, which means they're 10 feet away from their neighbor's yard.
Yep.
And I think about some of the lots in town that are relatively small, and,
Okay.
and I promised I would consider what you guys came up
Right.
with, and,
I addressed that concern too, and some of the pictures, we don't have the pictures here of the coops, I mean, they're essentially gonna look like a shed, which, and they have to get approved by the city staff, or I don't know who's doing it, David Krupich or whoever. I mean, they're gonna be, I mean, I have made the same concern as my point at public safety, and the idea of it looking like a shed is what made me not push it, but also I think that some of the smaller lots, I don't know if they'll meet the actual setback requirements to even have a coop, which would eliminate some of the smaller lots.
Or where the neighbor has their,
But I agree with her
Building next
concern, which is why I wanted neighbor consent, which is why I made the suggestion that we consider it.
Well, we're gonna be able to have people heard at council.
Now,
for-
if we have a public hearing.
No, I'm talking about for when you approve the license itself.
yeah.
So, and to Kathy's point, that keeps the control in our hands, not in someone's neighbor, or some neighbor's hands.
But if they meet these requirements, there's really, unless they've had, complaints or whatever, or unless there's something unusual on the neighbor's property, then, or they'd probably get a license.
And then I guess my other point is, I don't know, it's maybe a little bit more philosophical, but as I read through this, we're saying they can't be in the person's residence. So I assume that means they can't be in the garage.
They can't be running free,
They
period.
can't be running free.
No, they're just to be in the coop and the runs.
The coop and the runs, so.
But as I look at how, I don't know, there's something strange about allowing an activity and then restricting it so much and spelling it out. I guess what I'm wondering is, does it suggest to me it's not really, possibly not compatible?
Well,
And I know there'll be
I mean, this
people don't
chicken's
agree
not
with me.
compatible with being in the city?
With being in the city,
Well,
Maybe.
there are tens,
You know, it-
tens of cities that have chickens. Let's go there. We already know that.
that's why the run size is the way it is.
Right.
Hey, I was not on, I've been on both sides of the fence on this, and the run size, I think we made it a little larger for that reason, and no, I don't want them running around the backyards. It was suggested that we do that, and I suggested that we don't push it. It's a trial period. I think if we want to make changes or not have it after a year or make changes, it's something we would look at. That's why it's coming back. I'm not, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with your concerns. That's why I voted no the first time around. But I also think, it was said to me at one time that we need to trust our residents, and I think it's something we should try and do. But yet, because it's a trial period, we need to have some control over that too.
Okay. Any other questions on this? We have a motion for a first reading and a second.
Well, if you want to go to public hearing, how do you want to do that?
Like any other public hearing.
Well, in front of our next council meeting, or?
Whenever our first whenever the first day can be set. I forgot how many days out that is.
You know, the night
Well,
we,
this is not a required public hearing,
Nope.
so there's no
Rules?
in terms
Could
of
just have one.
notice.
Fine, then.
you know,
November
Just
4th is
have
our
it
next meeting.
before
Fourth
the
is, if
council
it's enough to
meeting.
notice, then.
the night we passed this, what did we have, 20 people talk about this? I mean, we had a whole group of people here, the place was full.
And we had one
and
person that
everybody
didn't
who had
want
any interest in it got up and spoke. I mean.
Well, then
there
we'll
had
have
to
a
be at
really
least-
short public
There had to
hearing.
be at least 20 people talk about this already.
Then we'll have a really short public hearing, but I think it's becoming more recognized in the city that we're talking about it now. It's been in the paper now. It wasn't, there was really no city notification unless you emailed your constituents that it was even being discussed. Now there's been an article in the paper, there's been some talk about it, and it's been requested upon me to go to public hearing from constituents, so I'm bringing that request to the council.
I guess I'm more not as concerned because it's a trial program. If this was for indefinitely, because after 1 year, you would think we'd be able to have a public hearing prior to, full.
Or you can look at it this way. We're not going to be able to pass it tonight anyways because we need to make changes. So why not go to a public hearing and we can suspend the rules the same night and pass it if that's how strongly you feel, or we don't. Either way, it has to go to another meeting.
Sure.
What's it going to hurt to have the public be able to speak one last time?
So do you really think, unless it's disaster, that we're really going to rescind this?
No,
Okay?
but you never know.
I think it's really hard. Once people have invested
people have
money,
invested, that's exactly it. I'd rather have there be.
let's get it on the front end.
now.
Yep, I agree with that, because,
So what are you suggesting?
well, I think, let's give the people that may be opposed to it a chance. Let's hear what they have to say. They had
Due diligence from the beginning and
for a public hearing. I think it's up to you guys, whether you want to have it or not.
Well, we could still keep a first reading and move to a second, have the public hearing in the same.
Absolutely.
I'm not opposed going to a first reading if we can still do public hearing.
But we have changes we want to make.
Are
Yeah.
we gonna establish a precedent then for anything that comes up that we're going to end up having to have public hearings on?
No,
I mean, I
I
don't
don't
wanna get
think
into
so.
that type
There's
of a
been,
situation.
there's been a few times where the council has decided on some issue to have a public hearing on an ordinance before adopting it, but
I've been
I
here
don't
since
think,
2010.
I think it's
I've never
within the
requested a public
council's
hearing.
discretion.
So I don't think
But
it's
we've
setting a
had them.
precedence. We've had them. We've
On
had
lots
them
of
just
issues.
Oh, yeah,
impromptu during
absolutely.
an issue, you know?
Yeah, what you get with a public hearing is a notice, and then the people, I mean, the purpose is for them to speak. It's not always the purpose for a regular council meeting for the people to speak.
I mean, chicken in the city is kind of unusual situation. It's not the normal situation for the city of Hudson. And
But it's not abnormal. I mean,
it's
many
not
cities have
abnormal, but I
chickens.
think it's not, I don't understand what it hurts. Unless you have a fear that it's going to get rejected, I don't understand why it hurts to have a public hearing. It's not delaying anything either.
Well, I'm suggesting we have it at our second reading at the next
That's
council
why I said
meeting.
November 4th is, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor right now for a first reading of the ordinance and a second.
And with a contingent on the change, or with the change of the item C2 of the January start, and a little language changing on 2B, not to exceed 8 feet. Is that kind of what you wanted, Laura?
It's already in there at 8
Well, it
feet.
doesn't
Yeah,
say
it's from
not to
grade level.
exceed, but if you want to polish the language, I don't know if that was what I was hearing.
Well, so the grade level you're referring to is a ground. It's not
Yes,
the,
right. But
2
we
feet
can
of the-
clarify that from the ground. I guess I would, as I look at it, I'm not seeing it specifically say that it comes to council, and I guess I'd ask for clarification on whether you want that.
I would like that.
So then I would clarify that to say the council.
Under what section?
Uh,
The first?
The first, want it to be under
Yeah.
license required, under
Yep.
C,
If you go to C-
What is the proposal?
page 1, that it would come to council for approval.
Well, they apply at the city
Did
clerk, but
every
it just
application
said,
come to council?
Well, in bulk, like we do operator's license.
yeah, that the council
There's just a
approves
list
the
of people who've
license.
applied, and we say yes or no to that list of people.
Yes. That way it gives residences if we're not going to put neighbor approval in there, and if a neighbor wants to know if
Right.
that's public,
That's the
then, and
public
then the
process.
neighbor knows that their neighbor's looking at chickens and they can come in and speak on it. I don't know. That's whatever. I don't
Well,
know.
you can try it for the first
Try
year. You'll find out how it's working. And then if it's working fine,
It's not
and
easy to
you're
make everybody
satisfied
happy.
with the regulations and that staff can, you know,
It's a bumper sticker.
Just trying to make everybody happy.
I just don't want to see an inordinate amount of city resources going toward approving chicken coops.
well, they are gonna require an inspection.
I know,
To
and that's, I mean,
yeah.
that's part of the issue I guess I have with
Yeah.
it.
We had I think a decent fee for the initial fee at $50. We talked about it in a $20 renewal, how much it would, what's gonna go into the time. Denny and we talked about it, public safety in depth, actually, how much time it was gonna
Yeah.
go into this, and if it's covered with the fees. So, because it was suggested that'd be lower, and we made it higher. So, I'm hoping that that would cover it, so.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to this? At this point? Okay. Madam Clerk, could you read the motion back again, please? I think basically it's a first
For
reading.
first reading of ordinance 7-13 with the start date of the license to be January 1st. And the language change in 2B, which was to
Something at the ground?
add from the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not clear about, would the applications come to council for approval?
I don't think there was anything in,
I would say that would probably go in, well, in C, and maybe the appropriate
C.
place, C3, applications made to the city clerk's office and then forward. to
is that a
council for
change that the
approval.
motion, the person that made the motion would like to
Yes.
make?
Yes.
Okay? Did you get that?
Yep.
Okay, is it okay with the second?
It's okay with me.
Okay. Everybody understand what their motion is?
There's nothing in that motion about a public hearing.
Nope.
Well, it's the second council meeting.
I thought you were contingent on having a public hearing, or to have a public hearing.
Before our
at the
next council meeting.
Before the second reading.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
so that should be part of the motion.
And just to say, Rich, I agree with you on that, because otherwise we could, but
okay, just to clarify, we're gonna have first reading tonight, right? Then we're gonna have we're gonna have a public hearing next 4th?
Yes.
Is that what you want to do? And then you have the public reading, the second reading, the same meeting or the next one?
same meeting.
Okay?
I'm okay with that, too.
Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Never gonna make Rich happy.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is consider downtown bench policy proposal, issue sheet and bench policy proposal. Tom, Denny, you're going to be our bench guy tonight?
Coming off the bench.
Coming off the bench.
There's a discussion in regards to the Rotary Club wanting to donate benches to the city with this funding assistance of local businesses to be placed in the downtown area. That generated some discussion on where the city ought to have a general policy to address this, and maybe what the benches may look like. So the proposal coming off of Public Works was that benches will only be allowed in the following, if the following conditions exist. The sidewalk width is a minimum of 7 feet from back of curb to the right-of-way line. The area of at least 5 feet of sidewalk area remains open for pedestrian access. Benches shall be located adjacent to the buildings and be placed parallel to the buildings. Benches shall not be more than 6 feet in length. Benches shall be of a design and materials approved by the City of Hudson. The Public Works Department shall maintain a list of benches or bench approved by the City of Hudson. Try to keep it
Okay. And this is
simple,
on
as straightforward as possible.
public property only, correct? I mean, we're
Well,
not
the
trying to...
intentions is these benches would be placed on the right-of-way area downtown.
Okay,
I guess, you do have some instances in downtown where the property line,
is owned
there
by
may
the...
be 3 or 4, the building may be 3 or 4 feet back from the right-of-way line, and there's a private area. I guess the question is, are we going to dictate in that private property what their benches have to look like? If
That's
they
what I
want
was
to place
getting
one
at.
there. Because they're not placing it on the right-of-way then.
We're going to dictate on private property.
No.
No,
Not
my
according to this
opinion
one.
would be no.
The question is
Yeah,
that...
public property.
Yep.
Okay.
Danny, doesn't say anything about the placement of plaques. Are we taking that into consideration then in section E, where it has to get approval of the city?
Yeah,
Will we
yes.
approve of it at that time?
That's correct.
Okay. So we're just going to leave it open, and then as we see it, we'll approve.
I think what we want to do is decide on a standard or standard benches that can accommodate the placement of placards.
Okay. This was passed in Public Works.
Well, we passed it to the full council. It wasn't that we agreed upon it. We just moved it for further discussion.
Okay.
But we did talk about a bench design.
Yeah.
What wasn't agreed upon then? Because there was only 2 of you, so.
We moved it on to the full council for further discussion.
Okay.
But was there disagreement in Public Works
Well,
regarding?
there's difference of questions, style, I think. No, we agreed on style, but I think we had a question about, what did I,
Well, this is a draft that was prepared by Danny.
The bench of interest is the second one,
yeah,
the green one.
Yeah, that's
And we
nice.
didn't talk about
we didn't want
color,
wood.
but we didn't want wood, we didn't want the
No, wood
really
rods.
ornate,
Yep.
And we just thought it was something different from what's in the parks for the most part.
So every bench is going to be green?
Well, we didn't I mean, we didn't talk about color, but, and I don't want to speak for you, Randy, but I was, I mean, I guess my thought was it would be good to have some uniformity. I realize we're already going to have other benches downtown potentially that are on private property that may not, match what the city chooses. But I think whatever we select, it would be good to have it be the sort of standard, sort of like we have standard trash receptacles down there, that there be a standard style and color. There's room for a plaque on there, so. But we're certainly open to
Is
suggestions.
the benches are gonna be from Rotary?
Not
Benches can be
necessarily.
from whomever.
Okay, they can be from businesses as well, though? So I guess
It doesn't address that in the,
no, but if a business decides they want a bench, it has to go through Public Works for
it's going to be
approval.
placed on our property,
Right.
or the right of way.
So I guess my question would be if the business has, a franchise color to it, like the yogurt shop or what have you. Just an example, I know they already have benches, but I'm just giving an example. I would assume that they would want to stick with their franchise color. So I would have a concern about that, about restricting. I mean, if it's going to have to go through Public Works for approval, and it's going to be the same same type of bench all around, I don't know if I would want to restrict color on them. Obviously, if it has to go through approval, we're not going to do anything crazy.
I mean, I think the whole reason we're doing this, and I mean, in part, it's to have some uniformity to what is being put in, and that it's the city deciding, not Rotary, not any other group. And I think that businesses would fall under that as well. So if they don't like the color we have, I guess they don't have to put one in, but I think we either have a plan and a design and color in mind, or we just are kind of back to where we started, where it's.
Who'd pay for
being a
it?
hodgepodge.
Does the city pay for the bench or the business, though?
Well, I mean, they can be donated. The city could provide them, I suppose, if we chose to.
I think the intent is these be donated, paid for either by a charitable organization or by the business, or a combination. I guess the city wanted to place benches themselves, so we'd still be required to meet our own standards, so.
Guess what we're trying to avoid is somebody, business, just anybody putting a bench on the right of way.
I agree with
And
that.
any color or any length or anything they want. I think that's what we're trying to avoid, and that if we're gonna put them on our right of way, it's gonna be consistent and look good. Not that, and that's in the eyes of the holder.
And when you say plaque, you're just talking about donation,
Right.
recognition, not advertising.
Right.
At this point, I don't think that was the intent, wasn't it?
Well, if a business name is on the bench, isn't in turn, I mean, it's still,
Well,
it's
that's a-
advertising whether they donated it or not. That's why businesses donate. You
Well,
know,
that's
right?
why Denny is saying a charitable organization like Rotary, but if a business were going to put it up, it would need to be, I think you may want some size limits, because if a business is putting it up, it isn't going to be referring to a charitable organization, but they may want to have their business name on it.
Do we talk at all about, do they come out in the wintertime? Are we talking?
Well, the placement criteria basically should require them to be put in and stay in during the wintertime.
That was part of it, is that to eliminate that need to have them removed every winter and replaced.
So have we talked to, I think Tom is gone, how the shoveling and, if it's in our street right away, is it ours to shovel? So.
You guys aren't shoveling it now. I mean, nobody shovels my sidewalk.
That's a reason for that.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, probably on purpose, right?
Well, the typical procedure is
Yep.
that the property owners shovel the sidewalks. They'll
Right.
be responsible. I mean, the city crew downtown has to clean up the curbs, gutter areas,
Yep.
and a little bit of that area, but typically the private property owner is going to be responsible for shoveling that, so. So when they propose putting a bench here, then they ought to consider that being a possibility of some extra work that's involved during the wintertime.
Okay.
Seems like as much as we want to dictate style and color, not all benches look good in front of all buildings. So I can think of a number of examples, including, Barker's that got those really nice benches that sit like shelves on their wall. Is that on their own property or is that in the public right of way?
I think in their instance, that's on their private property.
Okay. And so I guess, I don't know, it's hard to say. Well, if it's green in front of some buildings might be good. I think we were hoping to put a planter or a flat bench with planters in front of 701. So how will that end up looking? It won't really fit in with this other, I'm not saying I'm right or anything. I'm just saying that it seems like a little bit of leeway might be kind of, but I understand uniformity too. But it seems like style is kind of part of one of the things that Hudson has, a little bit of flair going on with different buildings. So it's kind of hard to dictate.
Well, we can leave the color open and just cover it under E, where the city approves the design and materials.
Would we consider a flat bench also?
Well, again, is it on private property or is it on city right of way?
I think we're trying to say if
But it
it's on
comes down
private
to-
property, we're not going to try and
Right.
dictate that. I don't think we should.
No, I
It's
don't
on
think that's the
private property.
intent here. But
So-
if they're going to be donated,
And it's going to be on the public right
and
of
it's going to
way.
be in the public right of way, the city should have some input as to what goes there.
I would be okay with if color wasn't included, because I think if the city's having input, they're gonna be able to discuss the color as well, but I think businesses should have an option to if it's not, I just think they should have the option if they're gonna donate it.
Can I say something? It's not derogatory toward businesses, but businesses do come and go. And they change their colors, and they change their logos, and we're looking for something that's going to sort of, stay on the test of time, and we don't buy, different color garbage receptacles. There's a main color, and I'm assuming
Pink
whatever
ones
it
out
is.
there.
Yeah.
But on
Brown's
Second
gotta go.
Street,
Yep.
there's let's think about how the city looks overall, and gosh, if we can't even pick a uniform color and have them look somewhat standardized, I think we're,
Well, then maybe
We're
they should be
asking for
black
less.
and not green or something, I
I mean, whatever the color is, that's fine. Yeah, maybe black is more, less obtrusive with various colors than green is, that's fine, but I just think they should be uniform. Or you're gonna have requests coming back to council, can we put a blue bench up? Can we put a brown one? I don't think you wanna be dealing with that.
Well, most likely you're not gonna have a request to put benches from now till next spring. I mean, this is a general policy. If that's something that's okay, I think, staff can go back, pick out 2 or 3 benches, that can be, have placards placed on them, and bring back that recommendation to Public Works. But, I just like to square this policy away, and
Yeah.
so we know at least that's something we can work with.
That's fine, just,
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy as it's written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Will we get more options? Well, we're still working on our options, is that correct?
I mean, you could see if
As
there's
far as
others.
the type of bench, colors, those types of things, we'd bring back, the ability to put a placard on a bench.
I like
Those
black
types
as
of
an idea,
standards
actually.
we'd bring back.
Okay.
All right, let me just ask this, is anyone opposed to the one that Public Works brought forward? The
I think
second
it's a
one?
nice bench, I'd just like to see black instead of green.
Mhm.
I mean, they can all be painted.
I'd like to
but-
see more earth tones.
Well, the reason I say, was asking for a flat bench also is that some people have low windows, so that looks, you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be obtrusive, so.
That's an
So we
interesting
can can't we have 2 options for people to choose from, a flat and then one like this, and keep them uniform still with color?
Because some people have really high front windows, some don't.
Doesn't say
I
in
mean,
the ordinance or the proposed deal about that it has to have a back. It says, benches shall be no more than 6 feet in length and shall be of a design and materials approved by the city of Hudson.
Yeah, so maybe we have
think
two
that's-
options.
We
one
want that
back-
option, we can bring that option back.
Sure.
Yeah, I
A
think it's a
back,
good
a
idea.
back and a backless one, black. Black is an earth tone.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dennis. Karen, update on projects.
On the 2013 street improvement project, we now have Hanley Road, the Gateway area, Center Drive is paved with the surface course. This past Saturday, they completed the surface course on O'Keefe, and we're looking to get Crestview paved this week. There's some concrete repairs that have to be completed before we pave the Crestview area. And on Stage Line Road area, they completed that sidewalk on the south side of Stage Line Road.
Karen, is striping on Gateway coming?
You
A
know,
lot of issues on that intersection right now.
yes, I asked the contractor that question on Friday afternoon. I haven't heard back yet, but I did tell him we have to get the striping down.
Yeah, especially there, if you can't get it anywhere else on that intersection, because people are going straight and not turning.
Okay,
And
I agree.
I will talk to the
If nothing else, if the weather is conducive for paving,
we could get
at
some,
least get some
temporary.
loose tabs on there, that might help.
yeah.
All right. Okay, any other questions for Karen? Okay, thank you. New business. 11A, discussion of memorandum from city attorney regarding legal issues related to the extending municipal water and sewer to Hudson School District property outside the city limits of Hudson. Kathy?
You've got my memo, and the council had asked me to look into the legal authority of the city to extend utilities outside the city and just issues related to that, so that's what I did. Currently, with respect to water, it's in the Hudson City Code that water service shall be provided only to areas within the city, with the exception of North Hudson, and the city has an agreement with North Hudson. With respect to sanitary sewer, there isn't anything in the code, but the policy and practice has certainly been to require, to only serve areas within the city, again, with the exception of North Hudson. So that's, while you wouldn't have to change city code, that's been the policy and practice. State statute allows the city, says very clearly the city can, if it wants to, extend services outside its borders to unincorporated areas. I cited, several statutes that address that. Basically, it's within the city can decide what properties and to serve only those properties. There is a specific statute as cited that addresses service to education and other types of similar properties, public education, industrial, or I don't even, I see it in the tax code and stuff. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it basically public purpose type uses of property.
You mean the
Eleemosynary or-
Eleemosynary?
I don't really know, to be honest. So, with respect to authority, you have the authority. You aren't obligated once you serve, under statute anyway, once you decide to serve a certain property, you describe it, you have an agreement and an ordinance that authorizes it, and you're not obliged to serve anything other than that property that is addressed in the agreement and the ordinance. If you are serving town residents, you would need to have town board approval of extension of utilities or service in the town. you will need to work regardless of whether you're serving town residents, depending on how, where, if it goes in town right of way or county right of way, you'll need to